Every night, planes leave Nigeria carrying something extremely valuable. Not oil, not gold, not cocoa. People, doctors, engineers, nurses, software developers. Nigeria has a word for it: Japa. But here's the uncomfortable question. Is Nigeria accidentally funding the prosperity of other countries? Because when a trained Nigerian professional leaves, something strange happens. Nigeria pays for the education, but another country gets the benefit. And over time, that creates one of the most expensive hidden economic transfers in the world. Let's start with just one profession: doctors. Research estimates that Nigeria spends somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000 to train a single doctor from primary school through residency. That is decades of investment. But many of those doctors don't stay. They leave. And when they leave, Nigeria doesn't just lose a person. It loses the return on its investment. Think of it like a bank issuing a loan. The borrower receives the money and disappears the day repayment begins. That's essentially what brain drain does to an economy. Where do many of these professionals go? The United Kingdom, Canada, the United States. Countries facing their own shortages of doctors and nurses. Instead of spending decades training new workers, they recruit from countries that already did the work. Nigeria pays for the training. Wealthy countries receive the labor. It's a global transfer of talent. And it's happening quietly, every single year. So why do people leave? Most people think the answer is simple: money. But research shows the story is deeper than that. Economists call it institutional quality. Professionals can tolerate modest salaries. What they struggle with is systems that don't work. Imagine being a surgeon preparing for an operation and the hospital loses electricity. Imagine being a software developer spending hours in traffic just to reach an office with unreliable internet connectivity. This becomes the push. But migration creates another strange outcome. The global labor market often underuses our experts. Economists call it brain waste. A PhD holder driving an Uber in Toronto. A trained engineer working in a warehouse in London. A world where talent is not being used properly. So how do we solve this? Some people suggest controlling Japa. Trying to control Japa is like trying to stop the wind with a net. Instead, some countries have tried something smarter. Take the Philippines. When large numbers of nurses began leaving, the government didn't fight the migration. They managed it. They created systems that allowed workers abroad to stay connected to the economy. Over time, billions of dollars flowed back home in remittances and investments. They didn't stop the leak. They turned it into a pipeline. But today, technology makes it even easier. Because work no longer needs to happen in the same place. A doctor in Houston can consult patients thousands of miles away. An engineer in California can lead teams across continents. A lecturer in London can teach students anywhere in the world. So maybe the real opportunity isn't stopping migration. It's exporting expertise. Imagine Nigeria building platforms where diaspora professionals provide services to the world through Nigerian institutions. A Nigerian doctor abroad providing telemedicine consultations through hospitals in Lagos. A Nigerian software engineer leading a remote development team in Enugu for international clients. A financial analyst in London, running consulting projects through a company registered in Nigeria. Foreign companies would pay for those services, and that revenue would flow into Nigeria, not just as remittances, but as service exports. Just like countries export products, Nigeria could export knowledge. Countries like India have already built massive industries around exporting digital services. Nigeria has the talent to do the same, because the Nigerian diaspora is one of the most skilled in the world. The challenge is building systems. Let's stop seeing our diaspora as people who left, but as Nigeria's 37th state. A global network of skills, capital, and expertise. A Nigerian engineer leading remote teams in Nigeria. A nurse abroad investing in a clinic in her hometown. Economists call this brain circulation. Talent doesn't disappear. It flows back. And if Nigeria builds the right systems, that global network could become one of the country's biggest economic assets. Nigeria doesn't need to lock the gates. It needs to build the bridge. The literature may not be telling the full story. So let us know from you. If you've already Japa'd, what is the one policy change that would make you invest your skills back home? If you're still in Nigeria, what is the one thing keeping you there? And for everyone watching, could exporting knowledge become Nigeria's next big industry? Let us know in the comments box. Subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss our next exploration.